Well, welcome. So good to see you all. Please, 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 as we go through, leave comments, leave questions. We have a whole team that's eagerly awaiting them, and we cannot wait to talk with you. We're going to start up with Angular, but here's the agenda, just in case you have to pop in and out today, or you're watching the recording and you're wondering where the technology of your choice is in the recording. So we'll try to stick to this agenda, but we might go over a little bit. We've got an intro and outro, Angular, React, Vue, and then jQuery for our Kendo UI lineup today. Boom, boom, boom. So I always love covering this. I made a more brief slide that actually has just like the 3 pieces that I find most useful. And I will share after the Angular portion's over, I'll export this and I'll let Cindy plop it into GoToWebinar so that you can open it up and have like clickable links if you'd like. But if you want to get onto the latest, I find it extremely helpful to remove your node modules and your package lock and to then upgrade with this little filter here and then to reinstall all the things. I find that extremely helpful, but hopefully that helps you. We do have a blog post that outlines all of the flavors and every single one of the like features and components that are brand new. So either grab that QR code or you can type in that bit.ly to kind of follow along. I think we're going to go in a little bit of a different order, but it's all the same, all goodness. So yes, for Angular today, we have a new, very much asked for PDF Viewer component that we're going to talk about. I know, I'm so excited. Along with so many, so this list looks unique because I had to go through and like really simplify it because like the Gantt, for instance, like got a bunch of different changes, or like the dialog forms had a bunch of different changes. So I just simplified it so that you could see like a bird's eye view of what changed, what features were added. But then we're going to drill down into each one of those. And that was actually a feature pun. Did anybody catch it? No? Because dark charts now have drill down. Okay, no, it's fine. It's fine. This hideous slide, I understand it is not the prettiest thing I've ever made, but hopefully it is useful. So again, whenever you have the export, there's a bunch of different links and more details on what specifically changed or got updated. Our new PDF Viewer component, I'm going to bring up the screenshot I took of her in StackBlitz. You can see it's just Kendo-PDF Viewer, and there are different like controls on it as you would expect, but it is very beautiful. And I was playing around with her, and she's a lot of fun. But it includes navigation through pages, zooming in and out, uploading files from the local file system, keyboard navigation, and accessibility support. So you can go to it is its own package on NPM. So you can go under our components and just go to PDF Viewer. It's not nestled under anything. And I think if we have a little bit of time today, we'll play around with her. But let's talk about some V16 support. I know, I'm so excited. We do support Angular V16. So you can check out our installation and up-to-date for any, because I know certain teams need like older versions of Angular for specific reasons. And so that up-to-date guide is actually really good for that. But I wanted to mention, I was talking to Demeter on our dev team, and he was like, yes, we for sure need to update our install docs, because if you have gone all the way up to 16 and you are for some reason the bleeding edge 1% of Angular devs and you have no modules, then you'll notice that our install docs are a little lacking in that area, because we up until this point have expected you to have modules, as has the rest of the world. So we do support everything that V16 has to offer, but just so that you know, that flow is going to be a little bit different on the install and the setup. SVG Icon Support. So this slide, if you were here with us during the last webinar, might look familiar. It was released like in R1 of this year, the beginning of this year, where we now have SVG Icon Support. However, we now have set it to the default type. So last release, they were just like a new feature. This release, they're set to the default type, which is a breaking change potentially. You can check out the logs for more details. I actually linked to that little GitHub issue 4022. But I think I have, yes. So before, where it was button, Kendo button. Now it is button, Kendo, icon equals folder. Now it's SVG icon equals folder icon. And I think I showed the docs talk about this. I think in that issue talks about it, but the naming convention changed as well. Instead of snake case, it's now lower camel case of like a line left, as you can see, and then icon, the string of icon is tacked on. But yes, all of this is outlined. Most SVG icons, they do use this camel case, this new convention. So yes, check out the docs for more. We're gonna zip right along to drag and drop, and I think this is the first one. We're gonna pop in and out of slides a little bit today because I want to show you some of the new demos. But drag and drop got updated and now has a drag container. So the drag target container directive, it now allows you to essentially like make this outer container that has other drag items inside of it. So you can snippy snap the QR code if you want to follow along with me, but I'm just going to pop out of here real quick and go over to, so this, I just Command plus and zoomed on these buds. This, I apparently shared the wrong link because this is just the, what do you call it? The preview, not the actual where you get to play with it. So I'm going to go ahead and share the proper one where you can see the code. But here you have this boop, 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 div, and we've added Kendo drag target container onto it. And then you specify a target filter. This one we're filtering by the class of drag target, but I've played around with it, and like I think I did a more semantic list at one point, and don't go hunting for it. It's a broken demo, but I did play around with it, and you can just put like LIs in here or other like selectable filters of what am I filtering on here. And then the class of course, to make that connection, the class of drag target. It's very, very cool. I think it's not just for Kendo components, it's for any like DOM elements that you have or need. So that was a really cool, I feel like there's a lot of features like this in this release where it's not a new component because it's on an existing component, but it's such a like beefy feature that like it should count. There's just quite a few like that where I was like, oh my. So did you guys get drag target container too? Spoilers for React.
No, we have a drag and drop component that we've had for a few releases now. Okay. But we did not get like this specific update.
I think you might see it one day soon. We have on the flip side the drop target container as well. I bolded drop because when I was going through the docs, I was like, this is a duplicate, and then I realized no, it's drop target container drag there's a difference. So yeah, underneath utils is the package that you can find our drag and drop component, and that's where you can see in the docs both the drag container and the drop container. And this is just like a little snippet of using the Kendo drop target container, and I was playing around with that as well and having control to like make anything a drop zone essentially. So it's very cool. Our grid got some updates. Aggregation satisfier. Okay, so this slide is also one of those ugly monsters, but you're gonna love it once I'll show you. Okay, I'll show you. So the aggregation satisfier, we have to leave the slides to look at because my mouth actually when I started playing with it, I was like, what are they even talking about? What does that even mean? And I like started playing with the grid demo and I was like, it's beautiful. So I thought we have to go see. So we're going to grab this teeny tiny, the most baby link you've ever seen.
Oh.
I know, you're welcome.
He's just a little guy.
I know. I didn't want him to like clutter up the UI, but I wanted him to be there in case you're, opening the export and trying to follow along. So this is the documentation I want to see if I can show you over here. That's really tiny text, I apologize. So we're underneath grid, and then we go down to selection, and then we're underneath selection aggregates, if you would like to play with this. But I was like, let me go back and click here. So as I click, and you see I've like highlighted this mini, you have got like this like info about these things that's like I can also like command click, and then it's like recalculating. And it, to me, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is the coolest thing ever. So it enables you to select single or multiple cells and have different metrics based on that. So it's super duper cool. I'm going to refresh and show you one more time, because I just was like, oh my goodness gracious. Like, as I like, I was like, do you see it? Do you see it aggregating? I don't know. I thought I was amazed. So that is a really cool feature. I think if I go back, yes, we can see her again. I've got the snippets here of actually how to make it happen, which of course I took away. 1 second, here we go. We're gonna wait for it to slowly animate in. Apologies. So, so we have our cell aggregates set to true, and this is in a cute little object that we named selectable settings, and that we're then passing into the grid underneath selectable. And so I think quite a few of these are similar in that fashion, of these features. To enable them, you just change it in an object, a settings object, and that's passed into the grid. A new column menu layout tabbed interface. That's a mouthful. We might have time to check her out. Row reordering, which is really neat too. In the docs, you can see where you can just reorder rows now, based on, there's like a little, kind of like a little hamburger lit icon that you can grab and reorder them. Built-in print is now available. And again, these tiny links here, they'll take you right to the docs if you want to make this happen in your grid today. Selection persistence, and drag and drop between grids demo, which is lit. I think we're gonna have to go to that one real quick. So, I love how our team is like not only willing to like make things possible, but they're like so willing to like show you how it's possible. Like, I think
it's a real like thoughtfulness about the way people are going to practically implement these components. Like, it's very cool.
It is. I want to see, I was going to see if I have time to, okay, I'd like to open it so it's bigger, but we're just going to have to deal with my itty bitty living space. Okay, so this is the green for available in stock is like, you know, this is what we have available. And then as you run out of these items, you can like, you know, plop them into another, right? I know. But not only is like, obviously the drag and drop is working, but you can check out in the source exactly how they implemented it with our grid and with our drag target and drop targets. So it's really, really cool stuff. I had a lot of fun playing with this. I'm working on a donut demo where you can drag donuts on and off the menu. So that's the one that I was like, do not go hunting for it.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, have you ever left something in a broken state, but you're like, that's where she is. That's how she's living. So nobody go look at her.
Often.
Often. All right. Adaptive mode. We got some confusing verbiage in this release. What? Wording is hard in development? Yes. There are some confusing features and changes in this release, and I am going to do my best to clarify. So we have adaptive mode, as I'm gonna stick to calling it, and then we also have rendering changes. And the devs are probably on the stream watching, and they're going, "It's not confusing at all." And I'm like, "I'm sorry. I'm a very simple woman who gets overwhelmed with large words." So for the sake of these different features, we're gonna call this one adaptive mode and we're sticking to our guns. So adaptive mode was given to date pickers and DropDownList. However, I saw on the jQuery docs that it was on like a billion components. And so I think if you don't see it today, I was going to say, like, did you get it on more than, because I feel like we might.
I think so. I think this was a general approach of like some like design updates, doing some enhanced form rendering. So it's nice.
We're going to open this link for the drop-down list and look at adaptive mode. I'm going to full screen it. Go down here. So the drop-down list supports adaptive mode and provides mobile-friendly rendering of its pop-up. So here you'll see whenever you go to docs in any of our components, you'll see this little alert message, notification buddy, saying resize the browser to see how the drop-down list adapts in different resolutions. And so here is a drop-down and it looks very normal. And you're like, oh yeah, I understand. And then we like make her chunky and you'll see that she's now coming up from the bottom. Ooh, you see that? It's like, and she's now a part of, as if we were on mobile. And I think what they meant for me to do was not what I did. I think they meant me to do one of these things. They're like, obviously, Alyssa. But I like to break things. They're probably
you
all
didn't break it,
like,
though. That's
she
the thing.
commands
Like,
plus. No,
it still works.
but I think in certain versions of our docs it might. So they don't all expect command. Apparently, I was talking to a really, I mean, just like a super smart designer years back, and he saw me like doing that command plus, and he's like, "Why are you doing that?" And I was like, "So that I can see. I have really bad eyesight." And he's like, "But you're breaking my layout."
That's on him. That's actually not that this is what we're talking about, but there are actually WCAG accessibility requirements that require you to be able to zoom a screen up to, I want to say it's like 200%.
Oh, wow. I didn't know.
It's not.
That's awesome.
Lots of people use screen zooming the way that you do. And so if you want an accessible website, you got to build for that.
That's awesome. So both our date pickers and our drop-down list have this adaptive mode. I want to see if I'm going to talk about the next one right after this. I am. Okay, so this is where the verbiage got me a little kerfluffled, but it's fine. So form dialog components, rendering changes. These are your 7, I think that's 7, 3 and 3 and 1 makes 7. Yes, there we go. I can math. So we made some changes to these 7 components. Previously, they were displayed horizontally, but now they're displayed vertically. And additionally, the action buttons in these components have been realigned to the bottom left of the form, and they're no longer stretched full width. The submit button, which doesn't always mean submit, it's like this, the CTA, right? The main action, the primary action, is positioned before the cancel button. As a result of these changes, that's why I got like the breaking change button down there, it may be necessary to refactor any custom styles that you have done to edit forms, right? So there are rendering changes, yes. But they're all for the better. I feel like as a whole, all of our libraries are like tightening up and like doing just some really, really cool things. I'm really glad they're working on it. But Gantt pop-up edit dialog. I think on this one? Yeah, I think I want to pull this one up. So I'm going to explain it first and then we'll go into the docs. The Gantt now provides this way to like edit tasks in line, which is really, really like beautiful. I love it. Let us copy this link and go over to the webs. All right. Did you get this one, Kathryn? I know I'm spoiling everything.
I didn't. That's why I was watching this one. I was like, I don't think we have this one, but I bet we'll get it next release. Like, I feel like that's always, we're like off by one.
I know.
I'll get it, and then you'll get it next release.
Funny
and
how
get it, then I'll get it.
It's like nobody seems to lead. It's just like this like constant, like fluctuation
of yeah.
I'm going to click on market research and then you'll see this beautiful pop-up and you're all like market research is right. And then it's there. Same thing with this one where you can change things in line and it just works. I think that jQuery got this too. I'm sorry. I apologize. I made my screen too small. We're going to open this up. Can I it's because of my zooming and with the cropped code editor and the devs are like, please stop doing this to our
just open it in templates.
I know. Let's actually do that. I always worry though, because it's either going to be instant, like as you just saw, or StackLayout is having a bad day.
It's true.
But the Kendo Gantt, yes, it now has these options for opening the pop-up editor for your tasks and to edit them right away, which is very nice. I want to see, let me show you if I can go up and talk a little bit about how you would implement that. Yes, so Each time a task is clicked or double-clicked, the respected task click event is emitted and allows you to call a method that will open an edit dialog. Is she loaded? She has loaded. Let's go to preview only. I know there's a way. Oh, I think I have to fork it first. Never mind. I don't have time to fork. We'll just do the drag.
Not worth it.
I know. Yes. But I'm like AM, PM. Ooh, set it to now. Has that always been there?
I think it's the like date time drop down. Yeah. So.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Okay. So I've never seen the now button. The now button. I love it. Oh my gosh. They're back there like, it's been there for years. How could you not know? All right. How are we on time? We're okay. We're okay. We're going to get through the rest of our features. So that is the Gantt pop-up edit dialog. Use her today, right? The action sheet animation. I think I actually made a GIF movie. There we go. So this is very exaggerated, as you can tell, but it now provides a way for you to do one whenever it is opened or collapsing. And actually, I tested it, and if you like click out of it, like on the gray area, whenever it's like slowly sliding down, it'll like quickly like end the animation. So they even thought of that as well, right? I know, that's nice. But nobody's gonna make their animation this slow. We're obviously just showing you there is an animation milliseconds you can pass in there, and
we just want you to be able to take it all in.
You're welcome. So that's underneath the navigation package, and you can go to action sheet and then animations is how you can use that today. The dialogue. So we now have, I put new next to it because I was like, this is one of those chunky features that feels like its own thing,
yeah.
Right? So to specify action buttons in the dialog, you use Kendo dialog actions. And then I think, I was like, I think he's a movie, where you can see the actual alignment that you can specify, which is really cool inside of the dialog itself. And that is underneath the dialogs component, which makes sense, but sometimes I struggle to still find the right package, and underneath action buttons. The tree list row reordering, I think you're a GIF. These are the first, the two steps to implement, and then she is a GIF, where I think the tree list is one of my favorites. I think I've said this before. And so whenever I saw they were like adding like features to her, I was like, you better do right by my tree list, right? So they did. It's fine. Because you can reorder. That was one of the things I was checking is like, can you stay at the same hierarchy and reorder? And then can you drag up and out of that hierarchy? And you can. It's all very intuitive, just where you're dropping it. I know, right? It's really, really cool. So check out the updated tree list today. I feel like people don't utilize this component enough, so I'm going to be her advocate. Charts drill down, as alluded to earlier, which is underneath charts, right under there, new feature of drill down. This one was the second one that the devs just made me just like complete. I absolutely was just astonished. And I think, let me see, after I walk through the actually implementation of how to do it, it's so cool because it is like a little breadcrumb. We're just going to go and look at her real quick because I was so like, this is a thing. This is so cool. Also, it seems like a headache to implement, but they did it. So we've got company A and company B. Click on company A and then product 1, product 2. And then you're like, wait, how do I get back? Oh, let's use the breadcrumbs that were now generated by this chart drilling down. Because as you can imagine, there's a lot of metrics that could go pretty deep. And so you just can go home or back up a couple steps because of these breadcrumbs. But isn't that cool? I don't know. I was like, what?
That's really cool.
I say bravo to this feature because it made me so excited and happy. Also, chat, let us know if any of these features are making you excited or happy, or if they're still missing something. We want to hear from you. All right, we're going to go to the next one. Stock chart navigator position. This one, I did. So as I'm like scrolling, you can see the little navigator bud. This one was one that was a little confusing to me from the verbiage, because as you'll see when we talk about jQuery, they talk about it in panels. Kathryn, have you heard of it being like panels being referenced, or is that just a jQuery term? Because they were talking about how there's a new feature in the stock chart navigator for panels, and like there's like all these panels that you can now control, and one of those panels is the navigator, and you can set it to top. And I was like, maybe that's how it's like implemented everywhere, but they just don't talk about it, or maybe that's just a special jQuery thing, because I personally had not heard of panels in regards to the stock chart. Sure. Okay, I need to find out. I need to dig deeper. But either way, you can just, it's super simple. You just set position to top on the Kendo chart navigator, and that is how you customize her. I think we're ready actually for a poll real quick. So let's hear from the Angular audience, or really anybody. You know, if you're hanging out with us, we want to hear from you.
Anyone who's here, please answer the poll.
Yes, please.
All right. So, is accessibility important for your Kendo UI applications? Yes or no? It's always fun to me to like watch the numbers come in live. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you so much. I think we'll have two more, one in Kathryn's section and one in the jQuery section. But we really do have people from all different teams in the webinar with us right now. So if you have questions, if you have feedback, right now in GoToWebinar is a really good time to get live feedback from actual people who know everything about the product, like product X, product Z, right? Like all the way through.
I mean, everything.
Everything. Yeah. Watch someone ask us a zinger. No, bring it on. Bring it on. But if you are watching this recording and you're not here live with us, or if you are, on your day-to-day and you're working and then you're like, oh no, this feature or this component is missing, like they really do listen. You would be surprised how many of these features that I outlined today were directly influenced by customers. So check out our feedback portal. Our devs really do care. I'm going to do jQuery not quite yet. I'm actually going to hand it over to React.
Hey folks, my name is Kathryn Grayson Nanz. I'm a developer advocate at Progress. Today, we're going to talk through some of the exciting new features in the R2 2023 release for design and KendoReact. So for our design features, everything is going to be available across our full suite of component libraries. However, later on in the presentation, when we're talking about KendoReact features, those are, of course, specific to KendoReact. That being said, let's go ahead and dig into some of our design updates. One of the big ones that everyone should be aware of is the switch from font icons to SVG icons as the default in Kendo UI components. So to be clear, font icons will still be available. In fact, you can go back and set that if that is a strong preference for you. However, we are switching over to SVG icons as the default in our components. Not only is this going to offer you a better performance, a faster page load, but it's also a little bit more secure than font icons because there's no inline scripting required. So highly recommended. Go ahead and check out this blog here linked, or you can use the QR code. Either one is going to tell you all about why we're making this change, the benefits that you'll see, and if for whatever reason you do want to stick with the font icons, that'll give you the resources you need in order to do so. One of the biggest and honestly coolest things that comes as part of this R2 release is our new design system documentation. Start off by saying congratulations to the team. They worked incredibly hard on this, and it is just fantastic. Our new design system documentation offers a just ton of resources, assets, information around creating a design system on top of our Telerik and Kendo UI libraries. So that's going to include like a breakdown of several of our most popular components, specific documentation around front-end customization of that, information on our CSS utils package, information about fonts and colors and everything you could possibly need to know in order to build a design system. So whether you have a design system already and you're just looking to enhance it, or maybe take it that next step further by kind of seeing what we have available to help with that, or if you're completely new to this and you're like thinking about starting up a design system for the very first time, in any situation, this documentation is going to have all the information that you need and more. Highly, highly recommend checking it out. It's been a real labor of love from the team, and you could tell. So give it a look if design systems are even something that you are vaguely considering. Oh, this is also fantastic. So for those of you who may not know, ThemeBuilder Pro is our software that is dedicated to customizing all of our components for Kendo UI libraries with a real like WYSIWYG kind of format. So you can highlight a specific component and then go in and change different aspects of it, and it will reflect that right there in the browser. And you don't need to write a single line of CSS in order to do it. Previously, this was all done manually. In fact, let me just swap over. We're going to do a little demo in just a minute, but I'll go ahead and show you how the ThemeBuilder looks. So for those of you who may not have seen it, this is an example of a project that I have completely customized in ThemeBuilder. So you can see this doesn't look anything like our standard Kendo themes. It's been entirely changed to match this design system that I'm using. And all of that has been done via the panels here. Right? So when I select a component, it gives me all of these properties that I can edit right here without having to write any code. And then when I hit this export button, it will pop a little zip file out that I can go ahead and move the files inside directly over to my application and apply them. I don't want to spend too much time on this because we have some other fantastic videos and assets that can really walk you through this and give you the deep dive if you're not familiar with it. But the important thing here is that we've now created an import option from Figma. So in addition to the ThemeBuilder Pro, which is obviously targeted at more of a developer audience or folks that don't necessarily feel comfortable or don't want to write CSS, we also have Figma kits. These are targeted at designers, right? So if you have a designer on your team, or even heck, a team of designers, they can use the Figma kits to go in and customize every aspect of our components. And you can see this really mirrors the layout that was happening over in the ThemeBuilder, right? Because it takes every single component that we have available, breaks it down into all its various like interaction states. You can see here, right? Normal, hover, active, selected. This is going to cover every single way a component could be interacted with and could visually change as part of that. And a designer can go in here and customize all of this using the software that they're most comfortable with. So of course, when this happens, right, what's the best way to communicate this information between teams? Historically, handoff has always been a little bit tricky, right? Not so much anymore because we now have a plugin in Figma, the ThemeBuilder plugin, that will allow you to export all of these styles. So all of these design tokens that show up here in this right-hand sidebar, all of those we can now export, and they will show up directly in ThemeBuilder where we can then assign them without having to manually retype or move all of these design tokens ourselves. So I'll show you how it works. I'm going to create a new project called Figma Import. So right now this is a completely like unstyled. It's going to show you the basic Kendo UI default styles, right? And we can see over in our sidebar here, we just have the default Kendo design tokens available. However, if I come over here and I run this plugin, there it goes. It's going to redirect me here, it'll log me in to kind of validate, and then it will load in all of my available ThemeBuilder products. So I'm going to go ahead, here's the Figma import one that I created. I'm going to say, yep, so like that's the one I want. it will let me choose whether I want to import everything or just specific things. In this case, I want them all. I want every single design token over here in the sidebar in my ThemeBuilder app. So I'm going to say export. Look how fast that was. So now when I swap back over here, I'm going to go ahead. Oh, yeah, and you can see it. Let me give this a refresh. It hasn't loaded yet. There they go. All of these design tokens have showed up and are now loaded right here into my sidebar. And so in order to change the things here, right? So Kendo primary, I'm going to change this. I want it to be one of the Figma colors. I say this one, and it will immediately apply all the way across the suite of components. So we can see as I scroll down, because I've changed the default color, that's going to be reflected everywhere, right? And I didn't have to copy and paste any hex codes. I didn't have to do any color picking. I imported everything directly, and then I can just reassign them quickly and apply a complex design system in a matter of minutes, which is honestly pretty freaking cool. So to install the Figma plugin, you'll have to go to Figma, into their community where the plugins are offered, add that to your Figma login, Figma profile, I guess is the right way to say that. The plugin is completely free. Obviously, ThemeBuilder Pro requires a subscription, but honestly, it's not bad and it's completely worth it. Other updates that came to our ThemeBuilder Pro, we now have support for Kendo UI for jQuery, as well as support for ASP.NET Core and MVC. There's single sign-on support, so a little extra security, and more granular project permissions for who's allowed to view, edit, and who has admin access to various projects within ThemeBuilder Pro. We also, across our entire suite of components, got more mobile-friendly rendering. So a lot of our components are getting kind of a little fresh design, a little update that's going to improve the way that they are viewed on really small screens or on mobile, right? So for right now, that is mostly focused on date and time pickers as well as select type components. So it's going to be things like DropDownList, combo box, date picker, like all of those that kind of fall into those main two genres. With future releases, we're going to continue to roll this out. So you'll see mobile-friendly rendering applied across all sorts of different types of our components across all of our different libraries. This is something we focus on. We also got a little bit more enhanced form rendering. We've kind of reworked the form layout in a bunch of UI components. That includes our data grid, our tree list, scheduler, date time picker, a handful of others. This is just going to be a little bit more seamless, a little bit just more visually perfected. It's going to be really smooth. So go ahead, get that update and see that improved rendering. Okay, so from this point on, as mentioned before, these updates apply specifically to the KendoReact component library, so these are React specific. First off, we had some great accessibility enhancements, mostly in the WAI ARIA attributes, our keyboard navigation. We've updated some of our demos and our documentation. The other thing to be aware of is that with WCAG 2.2 coming soon, we are currently on track to have out-of-the-box compliance with that. For those of you that may not be keeping super close tabs on that, WCAG is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Version 2.2 is currently drafted and under review. It's scheduled to be completed and published in Q3, and so we are working based on the drafts and the information that we have to make sure that we'll be able to be compliant with that literally from day one, which is just incredible. We have 3 new components for you as part of the R2 release. First is a spreadsheet component that is going to give you, honestly, like most features available in Excel in this one component for React. So it will allow your users to have an interface, a spreadsheet interface that they're already pretty darn familiar with, most likely, to let them manage and manipulate data, export, import. It's fantastic. We also now have a context menu, which is a vertical menu that gets rendered in a pop-up. So, right, more familiar as maybe like the right-click kind of menu. This has several different properties that you can customize. It also allows you to kind of specify like which way it opens. It's just really handy. Finally, our third component that is brand new in this release is the timeline. So the timeline is going to display a list of events in chronological order, which is great for kind of showing how things progress over time, kind of like a history view or milestones. It will allow you to add images. It allows you to like expand and contract each kind of, not bullet point, but each card item associated with a date. You can embed buttons and links. It's really fun, honestly. So if you have a project that needs to display any kind of evolution over time, the timeline component is going to be just perfect for that. Now we get into the updates. So we have integrated that new context menu into our existing data grid component. So data grid now enables you to display a context menu, lets you right click and kind of set different interaction options via that right click menu. We have more virtualization improvements for our data grid, and we have some great examples here that were put together by the team. So if you really want to see kind of how that plays out, but basically it's going to improve stability related to metrics about row size, so it can more accurately calculate how many rows are in the grid and scroll position of where that will show up. We also have an update, the scroll to index helper method in the data grid. So now in addition to scrolling to a specific item, users can now easily check if a selected row is currently visible within the grid, and if it's not, they can go ahead and scroll it right to the top. So really helpful if you are looking, or your user is looking for a specific row or piece of information when you have a really big data set. As always, check out these examples, play with them. It's a lot of fun. Update. Now we have custom cells available in the data grid. So we have new properties now that will allow developers to kind of further customize. So if you were using, excuse me, if you were using our previously available props like grid column cell prop or cell render, those are still available. They're just going to provide less or slightly more limited options for customization. If you want to expand on that, you can use these new properties. Our data grid pager now has an all option, so controlled by the respective pageable options, more specifically page sizes. We also have an update to our tab strip that will now allow you to swap back and forth between moving left to right or right to left by toggling the direction property. There are new configuration options in the pager as well. The pager can now be configured to show all items in a single page. We also have enhancements to our dropdowns, which will let you display data in groups within a single component. So it'll kind of, within the list, nest things into smaller sections. This is really great. Again, if you have like a super large data set or lots of things to choose between, you can kind of set them. So if maybe you have a list of employees, you can organize them by team. So that is going to be available for our autocomplete, drop-down list, multi-select combo box, and multi-column combo box. The action sheet component now provides out-of-the-box keyboard navigation. Give it a look in this example. Makes it much more accessible and honestly just easier to use, especially for those power users who are going to be really heavily on the keyboard. We also have a great animation that's been added to our action sheet. So for those who aren't familiar with the action sheet, it is a small kind of contextual menu that comes up from the bottom of the page. And now, instead of just kind of appearing, it has a really beautiful, smooth intro and exit animation. We have new properties in our flat color picker. So default value, which will let you set a default value, obviously. Format, which will let you kind of swap back and forth between different input formats, and opacity, which toggles whether the opacity slider is visible or not. An onChange method has also been added to the flat color picker, which will trigger an event handler whenever the user edits the color value. So if, for example, you wanted to show a product changing color based on a user's custom color, you can now hook into that onChange method and like update your example every time the user updates the color choice. Whew. That's a lot of stuff, right? We have a lot of incredible information and new features and new goodies coming to us in both the design and KendoReact worlds as part of this release. So in addition to all that kind of stuff, if you just want to like come hang out with us, we have a Twitch channel and a YouTube channel where we're constantly posting videos about our components or about interesting new tech. We have cool guests. We live code a lot. All of the DevRels have different shows that you can come join, and the chat in the community is really a lot of fun. So if you haven't come hung out with us yet, definitely join us on Code It Live. Twitch is the most interactive, but you can always watch recordings of our videos on demand on the Kendo UI TV YouTube channel. So I hope you enjoyed these R2 announcements. And as always, if you want a little sneak peek of what's coming next, our next release, by the way, will be in October of this year. That will be R3. If you want a little sneak peek of what's coming, check out the KendoReact roadmap. In addition to giving you a little preview of what we're working on, what we're focusing on, there's also an opportunity there for you to give us some feedback. So if there's a feature that you really want or a component that you think our library is missing, please do tell us. We take that kind of feedback very, very seriously, and it really does help us shape the roadmap moving forward and what products and features we prioritize. So absolutely see what's coming next, and if you think it's missing anything, tell us. That being said, I am so glad that you popped in to join us for all of this exciting new release news. Let us know what you think about the content of this release and have fun.
Hello. Thank you for having me in this great webinar again. I'm going to talk about Kendo UI for Vue. It's an amazing release again for Kendo UI for Vue. And you just saw the presentations for Angular and React. But let's see if we have again more components than they have. Ta-da-da. We have 4 new components: the StackLayout, the GridLayout, MultiSelectTree, and the DropDownTree native components. These are, by the way, one of the most wanted features in our feedback portal. So go on and keep adding new votes, keep adding new suggestions for what you want for Vue, so we can go on and implement them in some of the next releases. So here is in brief what we have in this release. The first thing is a ThemeBuilder update. If you don't know, you probably saw the great presentation by Kathryn a few minutes ago. ThemeBuilder is our new suggestions for a great way how to update the styles in all the Kendo components. The idea is to have all the professional components for React, Angular, Vue, and the other suites, the underneath, and then have a very easy and smooth way to update all the styles that you want. So go in and check it again. It's a rocket science. The other great new update in our suite are the SVG icons. All the icons that we had before were font icons, and now we changed all of them to SVG so that in very soon we'll be able to remove the fonts from our team and to have them even whiter and compatible with all the necessary accessible efforts. Another nice thing that we have is the Visual Studio Code extension. I will show you a quick demo with that. And a great additional feature that we added is the grouping in the data dropdowns. So let's go. ThemeBuilder. Here is the StackLayout. It's a great new component that actually adds a vertical and horizontal way to position your components. It's actually the Flexbox implementation in a component way. We already have the styles in our teams. We just provide a quick and easy way to use it in a component without adding new styles and be able to arrange everything with the pure Flexbox just using our teams. We have a horizontal, we have vertical modes, and as you know, it's just the way how to position in items in an one-dimension order, like horizontal or vertical. The other next component is, of course, the grid layout that works the same, but with 2 dimensions, and it provides a way to add rows and columns and structure a larger amount of data in different ways. It covers the grid CSS. Great new component is the DropDownTree. If you don't know, in Vue ecosystem, there are not many such components. DropDownTree is one of the first components that is here in Vue. So huge applause. Go on, check it if you need such component. It's like a tree in the dropdown. And the same is for the MultiSelectTree. It actually provides the possibility to select many items from the tree inside. So you have like multi-select, but with tree structure. If you ask yourself why we have 2 components but not 1 for this, it's actually an interesting story. We used to have 1 component in one of the previous suites that we have, and it brought to us lots of bugs, lots of not clean code, and a lot of complaints about that. So we decided to start with separate components, and it provides much easier structure and much easier scenarios, so that the customers are happy. The next thing is the grouping. Grouping was one of the most voted, most wanted things. Why we need it? Well, not most of the open source dropdowns that you can go and try to find don't have grouping, and it provides a great possibility for the users to have the items in the dropdown grouped in some way. For example, if you have, like in this picture, all the employees of one firm, and you want to choose some of them, and you can immediately see who is team lead, who is developer, and who is in some other position without the need to wander. So this provides great improvement for the user experience when using dropdown. The next thing is the Visual Studio scaffolders. There we have a new getting started article in our documentation. I will show it in a bit. And we have this Visual Studio code extension. You go there, download it, and you can create amazing Vue, brand new Vue application with a getting started grid, chart, or form components for Vue. And from this release, we have this context menu that provides the ability to add new pages just for Vue or React in an already existing application. So that's another great improvement. We keep on improving in that because it gives you a much faster experience with Kendo again. And here is the time for some demos. I will go on our components page. As you know, we already have more than 100 professional components for Vue. You can check them here on our Kendo UI for Vue components page. And this release, we had most of the updates for the dropdowns and the layout components. Here is our StackLayout component, and here is our demo where we can position these nice dots either vertically or horizontally. Another options for the StackLayout is, for example, the gaps demo, where as in the Flexbox API, we can provide larger gaps between the items, for example. So here we have a Vue component and the ability to dynamically change these gaps between the elements. So this gives another flexibility to our pages. We also have the alignment and nested stack layouts here as an option if you don't want to use grid layout. Here's what we can achieve. The next component is the grid layout that provides, ability to have ordered in a different way components and items, like here. And we also have the gap and the rows and columns set in different ways. And so we can have all the possible layouts that are available. Here are some dynamic changes of the width and the height of the column. Next is the MultiSelectTree, one of my favorite ones. So here is how easy we can do it. We have the keyboard support and accessibility, of course. We go on and select some of our components, and this can be submitted in a form. This can be sent in an API without any issues, as all of the other components. And here we also have the ability to expand and collapse our inner items. So this could go very handy in more complex cases where we should choose from different data. Its brother or sister, as Alyssa calls them, is the DropDownTree. Here is this. It's the same, but we only choose one item. So here is how she behave. You select this one, then go. We have the great keyboard support. We can clear the item, and we can again submit it right away in a form. Of course, if you don't know it, here are the different themes and our swatches that are predefined, so you can choose which one will stay best for your case. Here is the dark one, for example. And we can go to the ocean blue. Next is the grouping in the combo box. For example, we have it for the autocomplete box, for the combo box, for drop-down list, and for the multi-select. And here is for how we have a developer, QA, team lead, and support. And we immediately know which one is which, and we can choose the designer, for example. Great feature that is also available for filtering, and we have the ability to customize it as you want. Last but not least, I will show you a quick demo with our Visual Studio Scaffolder. Here is one very quick how it looks, one very simple application built with our Visual Studio code extensions. We have a chart, we have a form here, a blank page, and a grid that is with one of my favorite purple swatches in Kendo. And if we want to add one more pages here is what we can do and how the new scaffolder functionality can help us. We go to our application, and here, where are all the components, as you see, we can go and create a new Vue project item. Here is what we have now, grid, and we want to call it something cool, like cool grid, and we want to add it like without editing, just sorting and paging to our new page. So that's all. Just hit create, and we already have these two pages generated for us. Now we only have to add it to the main menu here. And to the route, and we will be able to see it. Let me see if I can quickly generate it. Here is the routing. We need to import it. The cool grid is here. Cool grid. Now we add another route. And let's see what we have. Yeah, it's here. The cool grid is already here. And let me go to that. Yeah, it has a paging and sorting as we want. So you see how quickly we can create a new grid with the help of our Grid Visual Studio code Scaffolder. So I think that's all from me. Thank you for having me again, and see you again. Bye-bye.
Hello and welcome to the jQuery portion of our Kendo UI R2 2023 updates. Very excited to dive in. we have so many features to talk about. The first is accessibility. We have partial compliance with the new WCAG 2.2 standards. And in October this fall, we are planning on having full compliance for the WCAG. We also have a top navigator position option in the stock chart that we'll take a look at. The Gantt has a pop-up edit form, which is really flipping cool. And there's a lot of other features that go along with that, and just the Gantt in general. The scheduler now highlights events in real time, so you can see exactly where you're at in your day. The date and time pickers have date editing UX enhancements. The date time picker has a configure start time and end time option now. The forms have rendering improvements that we'll talk more in detail about in a moment. And the grid has the long-awaited compact data grid mode. The grid also got row resizing, built-in print, aggregation status bar, and a column menu layout, which a lot of people are very excited about. Form components got adaptive rendering, and the scheduler has an integration example with Google Calendar. So this ability always existed with the Kendo jQuery scheduler, but the team built out an example of exactly how to do that integration, and the demo is available now. We also have some additional adaptive behavior resources added to the documentation and ThemeBuilder Pro support, which I'll show off in a moment. SVG icons are now not only supported with Kendo UI for jQuery, but they are set as the new default, which is really important to note. And last but certainly not least, we have CSP compliance improvements and a new CSP compliant template component. So this is the article. It goes over not only what's new with R2 for jQuery, but React, Vue, and I'm blanking on the other one, Angular. Oh, my love. So scan this QR code or type in this bit.ly to pull that up. I'm actually going to pull it up right now myself, and we can talk a little bit about those details. So let's do it. So first things first, let's pull up this doc. And as I just mentioned, it covers more than just jQuery. So I have my little jQuery search to show you how many times a jQuery feature is or new component is mentioned. And so we're just going to kind of trundle through and show off some of them. The SVG icons, which Kathryn talked in detail about, of course, is one of those items, along with our design system documentation and theme builder, which is really cool. And if I go over to, which you saw a sneak peek of this earlier when I was scrolling past, here I have ThemeBuilder open with create a new project, of course, is going to be what it prompts you with, but I have existing projects that I have created. So if I open up Windows 95, for instance, this is a theme I'm working on where I'm replacing the defaults of Kendo UI. And over here on the left, you can see where all of the variables that Kendo is using are listed out here. And I can modify those. There's even an advanced edit if you want to get into more nitty gritty than just like things like font and color. But where you can get into things like border radius and sizing of things and padding and everything. But once you have the styles the way you want them, whether it's your brand or something new that you're creating, you can then export them. And I'll show you the download. If we go and show it in Finder, you will be given a zip file. And in that zip file, there is a dist folder, a distribution folder, has the fonts that you're using, Sass if you need it, but also just the CSS, which has all of these styles that we just looked at. And if you include that in your application, it will just retheme everything to look like your brand. It's very, very, very cool. So check out ThemeBuilder Pro. We're going to go back to the blog post. So adaptive rendering is the next one I want to talk about. And if I scroll down, you'll see that these components in this paragraph, the drop-down list, the combo box, the date range picker, right? There's a lot of different components that got this, a lot of input components specifically. And I think I have it pulled up here. So full screen, this is what the drop-down list looks like. And this is not abnormal. This is something that we should all be used to seeing. But
if we actually make it more of a mobile size, you'll see it fills up the entire screen, and it's a lot harder now to fat finger because of how large the items are to select. And there's even partial breakpoints where it's not mobile, but it's not full desktop either. And it's really, really cool to see the iteration and the adaptive rendering that all of these components just got. So if you are up to date with R2 2023, then you have this out of the box, which is really, really cool. Our stock chart navigator did get the ability to put it in the top position as mentioned. And the accessibility enhancements that we talked about, yes, and the form rendering, which of course not only jQuery got, but Angular and KendoReact got this enhanced form rendering. Let's see. Yes, the grid. I think I have this one pulled up. I do. So the jQuery grid now has the option to be compact. And it's this over here on the left, this high density size grid is the compact version versus on the right, which is the default grid. And you can see that like this one goes all the way to the 19th of January, whereas this one stops at the 12th of January. But not only is it condensing the cells, like the actual cells data, but it is affecting things like the toolbar, the pager, things like that when you go into the high density mode or the compact grid mode. And that is just a size setting that you can modify on your grid and get so much more data in a smaller condensed space. It's a very cool feature. There also was row resizing. I think I have that one pulled up here too. So if I refresh this dojo and I run it, you'll see the rows in the grid now have this little drag bar where, and I did a little selector here on nth child odd so that the odd children would be purple so that we could just really see what we're working with on the row size, because when it's white you can't really tell how large that row is. But yes, this is a very easy win, I would say, for the grid, and it's just by setting resizable rows to true. So it's very nifty, and there is how you set it. You can make that even larger so you can see in the configuration where you set resizable to true on your jQuery Kendo grid. If moving right along, I know the Gantt has been difficult to edit up until now, and the team put in a lot of work, which I'm really excited about, to make it not only with the data, it has this inline editing, but now over here on the Gantt part, if you double click on a piece of that Gantt, you get this editor pop up. And let me see if I can enlarge it, which has multiple tabs: general, resources, predecessors, and successors, which are all editable. And this significantly enhances just the editability of our Gantt chart for jQuery. Let's see. We also have, yes, styling and customizing with ThemeBuilder Pro. We talked about that and showed it off a little bit. The enhancements in, let's see. Oh, yes. The enhancements in the editor table wizard, which I did not outline, but you can check out a demo of the table wizard and all of its updates. Let's see, I wanted to show the scheduler. This one's really cool. If we scroll down, you can see it's got this cute little outline here of like what's currently happening, the current time. And I think we can open up that to see. Yes, to see how it's happening. And then if we scroll down, you can see in the docs exactly how to make the current time highlighting possible with your grid. So here in the scheduler, where you are new upping a new Kendo scheduler, you see that we have this ongoing events, and that is then set to enabled true. So if you set your ongoing events to true, you will have this current time highlighting available in your scheduler, which is really, really cool. What else do we have time to cover? There's a custom toolbar with the scheduler, and enhanced demos with the adaptive behavior, which was the drop-down list that we talked about earlier. The action sheet component got a lot of enhancements that you can read about in this article. End of support announcement. That I think is, I know we've been talking about KendoList themes and their end of support. But that was announced, I think January of 2022. And so jQuery is moving to a complete SaaS-based theming, and you can either use the default, the Bootstrap, Material, or Fluent themes. And this is all with the movement of realigning the libraries, updating them, and making sure that we can just have the best developer experience with the customizing of our components. And so in order to get everyone on board, that was part of the less deprecation, but there was a blog post that went into further detail that I'm going into. Let's see. I think that's all that we have time for to highlight. I'm going to pull up Keynote so that we can wrap with not only that link again, in case you didn't pull it up yet, but our feedback portal for any features with Angular or jQuery, React, or Vue, any Kendo UI features, please reach out to feedback.telerik.com. Our devs really do listen, and many of these enhancements and features were direct results of clients reaching out and saying, we need X, Y, or Z. So please reach out. We are here to listen. You can hang out with me. I stream on Code It Live on Tuesdays for JavaScript Girl, and then I'm on Angular Air on YouTube on Fridays. But it was a absolute pleasure being here in this webinar with you. I hope you all have a marvelous day. Please reach out if you have any questions on Twitter. My DM is always open. So